share the reasons why I quit smoking, because although I smoked for many years, and I will admit loved smoking and didn't necessarily want to quit, there were some very strong whys as the reason to why I should quit smoking. And those reasons that were within me are really what helped me make that decision to finally quit, and also got me through those really tough moments of when I wanted to smoke again. So I wanted to share with you my reasons for quitting smoking. The first reason why I quit smoking, and probably the most practical for me, was the money. I spent a lot of money on smoking. I live in Canada, and where I live specifically, it's very expensive to smoke. I paid over $12 per pack for not even the best brand. So that was kind of on the lower end of cost. And so I was spending a minimum of $48 a week smoking, which adds up to $208 a month, $2,496 a year, $12,480 every 5 years, and over $24,000 in 10 years. That's a lot of money to be putting towards cigarettes. And so for me, what kind of came through really clearly was that I was spending money on cigarettes on a habit that I really couldn't actually afford. I live in an expensive province in Canada, and the cost of living is on the higher end, and while I have a good job and it supports me financially, I was wasting a lot of money that I could use for other practical things other than smoking. So for me, the money that I was spending on smoking became very clearly the wrong decision. It was clearly something that I shouldn't be spending my money on. I couldn't deny anymore that I was compromising myself financially for this habit of smoking. That was the first most clear reason why it was time for me to quit smoking. The second reason, and I actually had used this reason previously, a couple years ago. I quit smoking for about 3 months, and it was one of the reasons why I quit smoking back then. But again, it came up this time as a valid reason for me to quit smoking. My husband and I have been talking about having children, and we definitely want to have children, and so I know that when I become pregnant, I won't want to smoke, and I'll have to quit smoking. So despite me really liking smoking, and but also knowing that I clearly have an addiction to it, I knew I was going to have to face that point of stopping when we decided to become pregnant. So that was a really obvious why for me as well. I'm going to have to quit anyway. I'm going to have to face this point anyway, so might as well do that now. But that was also a reason the previous time that I ended up, I quit for 3 months and then I started again. That was actually a reason why I justified myself to start again, which was, well, I'm not pregnant now, I'll face it when I become pregnant. So it didn't totally stand last time, but this time around I can see that that is still a valid point within me in terms of why I want to quit smoking. I do want to have children, and I want them sooner than later, and so I'm going to have to face that point. And so for me it became, again, this point of, okay, well, I'm going to have to quit smoking. I might as well get to practicing that now. It was also a point of, I didn't want to be at that stage where I am now having children and still having this addictive relationship to smoking. I wanted to be clear from that. I wanted to release myself from that addiction so that stepping into motherhood, I had an understanding and a grasp on myself enough where I was making a decision for myself whether I was smoking or not. You know, when I was smoking, I wasn't choosing necessarily to smoke. It was an addictive habit that I couldn't for a long time let go of. And while I convinced myself that I really liked it and really enjoyed it, the nature of the relationship that I had with smoking was addictive. I was using it for reasons outside of self-honest support. I was using it to suppress, I was using it to cope, I was using it to deal, I was using it to escape. You know, I was using it because I believed I needed it, and I believed I couldn't quit. And so I wanted to be free from that state of mind and state of being once I decided that it was time to have children. I want to be an example for my children that, we are not enslaved to these habits. We can break free from these habits. And so I can't teach that to my children unless I'm a living example of that myself. And so it became another self-honest point of, I want children, I don't want to smoke when I'm pregnant, and I want to be a good example for my children that we don't need to use these things to deal with our lives. Kind of leads into my third reason of why I wanted to quit smoking. And this is because I come from a family that has very strong addictive tendencies on both sides. So on my mom and my dad's side, there is a lot of addiction in the families. There's a lot of people within my family that suffer from addiction, and some have recovered and some haven't. And I've had my own experience with addiction even previously before smoking cigarettes. I have a video about my addiction to smoking weed, which some people will say you can't be addicted to. I say you can. It's really the nature of your relationship to anything, and anything you can be addicted to. So I've had my own experience with addiction, and knowing that I do have a more addictive personality. So for me, it was a point of, I've spent the last 10 years really challenging the nature of who I am and the nature of the decisions that I make and the nature of my behaviors and actions and why I do what I do or why I don't do what I do or why I think the way that I think. I've really, for the last 10 years have really dived into this understanding of myself and who I am, and learning and how to apply a change within who I am in my living actions. And so for me, it was inevitable. I had to face and challenge this habit within me, this addiction within me. I would have to eventually face this part of me because it is something that I've enslaved myself to. It is something that I've defined myself according to. It's something that I've used as a way to cope and to deal, and within that I've limited myself in my expression and who I believe that I am. I think that I need it. And so to me it was obvious and clear that I would inevitably have to face this relationship within myself. It became a point of, this is obvious, I'm gonna have to face this relationship with smoking cigarettes. I'm gonna have to understand where it comes from, why I feel I need to do it, why I can't stop, why am I not able to make the decision in a moment to not smoke, especially if the want comes up. Why can't I say no? What is controlling me? This was really important for me too, because this is what I've been doing for the last 10 years. I've been really challenging the nature of myself and why I am who I am. For me, it became clear that it was time that I took on this relationship with smoking cigarettes. In addition to that, I also, my parents were smokers. My grandmother was a smoker. My great-grandmother was a smoker on my mom's side. So it's a generational habit that has been passed down. My brother was a smoker. My aunts, my cousins, there's a lot of smokers in my family, and so for me, smoking it's a generational thing. And so that was also a point, again, with the children, that I wanted to establish it within myself, breaking that cycle, breaking that generational cycle in my lifetime, with my lifetime, me being the end point of, I'm not going to pass on this addictive habit to my children. I'm going to live a different example for them, and it comes with the hard work of changing that nature that has been passed down through the generational lines. But that is the responsibility I see that I have, to ultimately change and transform my generational line. I'm passing on what's come before me, and if I'm not, am I satisfied with that? Do I want to pass on these certain traits to my children? No, I don't want my child to ever have to suffer the experience of being enslaved to something, to thinking and believing that they need something to deal with who they are, instead of realizing that they have they have other tools to get through. They don't need to use a substance to feel better. They don't need to take certain actions as like a way to escape. You know, I want to show my children a different way. That was very also important for me, to be that ending point in my generational line, to not pass on this habit or this tendency to use smoking for the reasons that we do. The last reason that I quit smoking was timing. I had a window of opportunity that kind of opened up to me. I had my last 2 wisdom teeth taken out. March 1st was my surgery, and I had 2 previous wisdom teeth taken out separately, so 2 different occasions. Both of them I smoked immediately after and gave myself dry socket, gave myself infections. It was really painful. So I already knew going into this, because they were doing 2-in-1 and I would be put under, it was more of a surgical thing. I knew that I had to give myself and my body those few days to recover before I went back to smoking. And so for me, I thought, I'm not going to be smoking for a few days. This is an opportunity I have to quit once and for all. Because, you know, they say those first 3 days are the hardest, and I knew I would be recovering. My mouth would be swollen. I wouldn't be able to eat. I would be on like probably pain medication. And so I thought, you know what, here's an opportunity I have to stop, that I'll be busy with something else for 3 days, that it will kind of keep me off of smoking. So I thought, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to quit smoking. And so I did. I had my last cigarette in the parking lot of the dentist office, and it was kind of funny because my husband was there with me, and we went into the appointment, and my appointment was delayed actually a few hours, so we had to stick around for like 3 hours before I actually went in. And I was like, I just had my last cigarette and I broke the rest that I had earlier, and so I didn't have any cigarettes, and I was like, I could have been smoking in this 3-hour window that we have to wait. But you know what? I made a decision. I made a commitment. It starts now. So here you go. It's 3 hours to kind of really face that decision that I had made, and to come to terms with the fact that, okay, I'm really going to do this. I'm going to quit smoking. Yeah, so I had a window of opportunity that I decided to take. And once the drugs wore off and the swelling went down, I had maybe a couple weeks under my belt, and I just kept going. And every time I faced a moment where I wanted to smoke, those reasons why came up for me. Those were my anchors. Those were my reasons. That is what I used to get me through those moments where I felt like I couldn't do anymore. I reverted to those reasons why. I reminded myself, this is why I want to quit smoking. The big one was the addiction, facing the addiction. I'm going to have to face that point inevitably anyway, so I might as well do it now, take the opportunity, the moment that I have before me, and make the most of it, like actually practically live that saying. It's easy to say these things, you know, to seize the moment and to live in the now and to, you know, take the opportunities that you have before you. But here was a practical way for me to actually live that, and I took it, and I'm so proud of myself because I'm over 4 months now without smoking, and I see such a strength within me that I didn't know I had. So yeah, those are the reasons I quit smoking. If you have any questions as to my process in quitting smoking, please share in comments, or you can direct message me. Those that are looking at quitting smoking and are finding it hard to get started, one thing I can suggest is making your own list of whys. Why do you want to quit smoking? Why do you think it would be better for your life? Why does it matter to you? Why do you want to quit smoking? So make a list and look at that for yourself and see if you can find that supportive to kind of get yourself going and making that decision ultimately to once and for all stop. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.